Okay, we're going to be doing some more knot tying today. This is going to be based around the Prusik knot, but I am going to show you a couple other knots that you can use kind of with that. So we start out with our 2-foot long section of paracord here. What we need to do is we need to create a closed loop, so we got to connect these ends somehow. The first knot I'll show you is the sheet bend knot, and this can be used for attaching two ropes together of differential size, like if you have a big piece and a small piece and you just want to combine the rope to get extra length. That's typically why this knot's used, but it can be used on a knot of the same size. I just want to show you it just so you know how to do that one as well and add that to this video. We basically just take each of our ends, okay, and we're going to make this shape. Just go like that. Put the right end through the left, make the same thing, and they're kind of at a 90-degree angle to each other, you'll see. Okay. Once we do that, I'm going to be referring to the right end and the left end. So keep that in mind. That makes a difference. So you want to cinch down on the left end here. Okay. Now we take our right and we go under with the working end, under the standing end. Okay. And this is just on the right side. Now we move over to the left and we go under the left. Okay. Then we go, so we can get this on here. We go back through that like such. Then that little loop that was still on our right, we weave the working end through that. Cinch that tight. And that is a knot that's never going to come undone on its own. And it's fairly easy to untie. And that is called a sheet bend knot. Okay. If you didn't get that the first time around, don't worry. There's a simpler way to do it. You can just take your two ends and just tie a square knot. Tie it to that part. Take the other end, tie another square knot, and then you pull those together. They tighten down on each other, and now you have your loop. Okay. That's actually two separate knots that you had to tie there. If you want to keep it simple, stupid, just do an overhand knot. Okay. Same thing, doesn't really matter. So that's basically a few ways that you can make your loop. Okay, now once you have the loop, that's your foundation for your Prusik knot. And once we make the Prusik, I'll show you what it can actually be used for. So we just start out here. I'm going to use, typically you're wrapping your Prusik around another piece of rope, or you can do it around a tree limb or a pole. I'm going to use my finger. That'll work for this tutorial. So we basically make a girth hitch here. So you just start out, wrap it around, and then it comes through like this. Okay. That's just a girth hitch. That in itself is a nice little knot to know how to make. So again, just basically pull it through itself. Now you just keep doing this. So now that you've got it through, just go back around. That's the second time you've gone around. Put it through again. Each time you go around, you're separating the pieces to the side and then coming around the inside. So you'll want to end up with 3 coils on each side. Once you have that, you just take your loop at the end and you go right through. Sorry. Right back through here. Cinch that down. Now you'll see 3 pieces on each side. You want to bring them together so you have 6. Should be all symmetrical. And that is your basic Prusik knot. Now you can see, pull on it sideways, it's not going to come off. It's going to make my finger red, but it's not going to come off. Yet if we just loosen it up, it can be easily adjusted. Okay, so under tension it's going to stay. That allows you to move it sideways across a rope, and yet you'll always have this loop here that'll be secure. And if you need to adjust it anywhere, you can just slide it. Okay, and what's nice about that is when you slide it off, it's just comes completely undone. Okay, so that's your basic Prusik knot. Now, you don't need to necessarily even start with a loop to make a Prusik. Okay, you can just start with a end piece. So same thing, we'll use my finger. We just wrap it around once. Okay, then we come over our standing end, back under the finger, over, and then under. Okay, so that is basically kind of like a I forget what this one's called, but it's the beginning of the Prusik. There's just 3 coils up top instead of 6, and as you can see, you end up with these 2 ends that come down. Those would normally make a loop, but since we didn't start out with a loop, they're loose ends. So that's just the basic, how you start out with the Prusik. All you have to do to make the real Prusik is just go around once, twice, over, same thing, back under your crossbar. That's what this piece here, that horizontal piece, is called our crossbar. And then you just go under there twice. Okay, I'm sorry, it's got to be 3 times to make a true Prusik. Little sloppy, but okay. So there is our Prusik. Now that is exactly identical to the one before. It's just you've got that loose end because we didn't tie the loop. So you can essentially just weave the Prusik knot with one standing end. Now I've come up with a variation on that. I'm sure somebody else has before. I don't know what it's called. But it's kind of like a deluxe Prusik. So start out the same way. We just go around once. Okay, and we want to start out with that basic Prusik configuration. Okay. Now, this is one of those things where it's almost intuitive how to do this, because there's really no other place to take this rope but up. I mean, we can't really go down because it's just going to wouldn't really do anything. So it goes back up over the same side, the left side. Okay. And as you can see here, kind of puts a little bit of tension on that crossbar. And we're going to go around and then under that part. Okay. And essentially we're making 2 crossbars here. Okay. And when we get to the other side, again, it's intuitive. We can't go around the top because that would look retarded. So we go under, and then we have to make this symmetrical. So how do we do that? Well, we could go down through there, through our crossbars under them, but it's not symmetrical. It looks crappy. So we actually go up under them and through. You'll see what happens once we do this. Now this does take a little bit more dressing in order to get these knots set properly. So we got to kind of pull the pieces here to make sure it's all tight. And you can actually take more care when you're making the knot to make sure that those are more snug. Okay. So we've only technically got 5 coils instead of 4, but the way this knot is situated now, it is still symmetrical because each end, the standing end and the working end, are completely aligned, and they align perfectly with the middle piece, which has 2 on each side. So that's why there's only 5 instead of 6. It keeps it more symmetrical. Now the thing is, if you pull each end, if you pull the standing end, pull the, let's get a close up here so you can see how that looks. See how it's symmetrical there? You see our 2 cross pieces? If you pull each end, it tightens, but it doesn't loosen. Now the Prusik, it's only going to be tight as long as there's tension on it. This one, actually, once you tighten it, it stays tight. That's a lot more secure. Now instead of having 2 pieces, 2 ends that come from the bottom, you've only got 1. You could do this to where there's a bunch of slack on the, or there's, a lot of end on the top, so you could tie that somewhere. Different applications. The main thing about this one is that it cinches down and it stays really tight. So that's kind of just something I came up with while I was messing around with the Prusik to see different ways of configuring it. Another thing that's nice about it is you've got 2 cross pieces instead of the 1, so that makes it, I guess, a little bit stronger as far as that's concerned. Although you'd still have a weakness because you've only got 1 line instead of 2, but at least that part's more secure. Now, after all that, that we did to tie that, again, watch this. Just slide it out, and it comes completely undone. So just like the Prusik, it's very secure knot, but it's extremely easy to undo and untie, even though it was really tight. So those are a few different knots, the Prusik and the sheet bend, and appreciate any comments, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.